Good evening. My name is Sandra Fritz. I'm the chairperson of the Shrewsbury School Committee, and welcome to our meeting of June 14th. Tonight's meeting is broadcast live on Selco channels 29 and 329 and streamed live on Shrewsbury Media Connections website. And I'd like to thank Liz Poplowski, who is helping with our meeting this evening from Shrewsbury Media Connection. First on the agenda is public participation. No one has asked to address the committee this evening. However, if anybody wishes to participate in that portion of our meeting in the future, you can contact us, and our email is schoolcommittee@shrewsbury.k12.ma.us. Next is chairperson and members report. Anyone? No. Rachel?
I have a couple things tonight. I know that Ms. Heffernan brought it up last week, but I wanted to reiterate some of the celebrations that we've been having. I know that we've been celebrating the high school in the last few weeks with graduation and celebration and National Honor Society, but it was our elementary and middle school's turns in the last few days. So between 8th grade graduations, 4th grade celebrations, field days, wax museums, whatever it is. I just want to recognize the staff that has worked hard to plan these events and make these events memorable for our kids, and to thank you to the parents for volunteering their time to make the events run, and who are going school to school, classroom to classroom to make all the connections to see all of their kids. And a thank you to our PTOs who helped to support a lot of these activities. But I also wanted to highlight an event that happened at Beal today. Today was the last all-school meeting at Beal, and unbeknownst to him, it was actually a thank you to Mr. Girardi. It was a send-off to him, and it was hidden from him by Shelley Hoy and the staff at Beal. They did a terrific job pulling off this surprise. Skylar Aconcio, who's one of our music teachers, she led the school in a sing-along to Bob Marley's One Love. It was nice. And each of the classrooms made a short video that was compiled into a bigger one. And you could tell how much Chris Girardi is loved by the students, by the staff that were in that building. And the PTO also wanted to give him something that sort of embodied him and his legacy. So coming soon to Beal, there will be a buddy bench. So the concept of the buddy bench being that kids that maybe are too shy to say, I need a friend, or would like to play, they can go to the buddy bench and a friend will appear and include them. And that is sort of Chris's legacy. So I just wanted to say thank you to the Beal staff, and also to Mr. Girardi, who is leaving Beal but not leaving the district.
Thank you.
I also just wanted to reiterate what Ms. Sharifa Poor said. I had the pleasure of attending one of the 8th grade celebrations this week, and it was very well done. And just like to thank the Oak leadership team and all the Oak 8th grade teachers. It's a really nice send-off for the class of 2027 as they make their way to Shrewsbury High. I also just dropped some students off at the 8th grade carnival tonight, so just a lot of really nice, fun things to end the year and their time at Oak. So I'd like to thank all of the people behind the scenes that are pulling these things off, because it takes a lot of work, and it's very much appreciated by the families.
Thanks. Okay, next is superintendent's report.
Thank you. I certainly want to concur that I appreciate all the efforts that are being made, from 4th grade celebrations to 8th grade celebrations, the recent high school graduation, of course, and just so many year-end activities that are wrapping up at this point as the school year comes to a close. I do want to congratulate all of our various students and teams who have participated in academic competitions. They've presented art in their art shows, performances with the last concerts of the year, the spring athletic season, just so many different ways in which students have excelled, and that faculty and staff have supported them in all of these co-curricular activities that enrich and round out the education that they're getting in our schools. I wanted to note two things in particular. First off, people may have seen recently in the Community Advocate, the Shrewsbury High School mock trial team had a very successful season, finishing as a top 16 team in Massachusetts. That's a program that's been growing, and we appreciate the work that they've been doing to continue to engage in that really neat opportunity to get some experience around speaking and participating in a way that one would in our legal system. And I also want to give recognition, and as Fritz mentioned it last week, they were about to go, but the under 17 boys crew It's a group of four and a four with a coxswain. Those athletes, Eric Silva, Evan Stossel, Chen Chen Dong, and Michael Shi, and the coxswain Shruti Sivashankar, who are 10th and 9th graders. This was a undergraduate, so to speak, team. They competed in the Nationals in Florida. Did well. They actually did compete and beat crews, I'm told, from Wisconsin and Tennessee and Pennsylvania. But really was a great opportunity, and congratulations to them and the entire rowing program on a strong season as well. And so many things that we can be proud of this school year, and just thank everyone for their efforts. It was a very successful year from my perspective. And that is Superintendent's report this evening.
Thank you. Okay, our first time scheduled appointment's a little bittersweet. It's a retirement recognition for Mr. Patrick Collins, if you'd like to come and have a seat. And we put your name out there too, just so you'll know. He's retiring as the Assistant Superintendent for Finance and Operations in the Shrewsbury Public Schools. He served for 27 years in education, 19 of them here in Shrewsbury. For 11 years, he was our Director of Business Services from 1996 to 2007, and then he thankfully returned to the district in 2015, and his current role is the Assistant Superintendent for Finance and Operations. So like I said, this is bittersweet for us because you are a very integral part of everything that we do, and we have some remarks.
So I'll lead off. I just wanted to thank you for all of your hard work. I think it's impossible to overstate how valuable Mr. Collins is to Shrewsbury Public Schools. I was fortunate to get to know Mr. Collins while working on the Beal Building Committee. Mr. Collins was a pleasure to work with on the committee. I was immediately impressed by his professionalism. He was always very well prepared and was able to answer the committee's questions, and his passion for making the new school the wonderful place that it is always shone through in all of his work. And as a new school committee member, last year, Mr. Collins was always available to answer my questions about different issues, about how things work, and he took time to walk me through the budget process, which was invaluable. And I will always be very grateful for the time that he took to get me up to speed. And finally, as a parent of students in the district, I want to thank him for his strong financial and operational leadership of our district. I will always be grateful that he was in this role during COVID, and he was able to help guide Shrewsbury Public Schools through such a challenging period. We were so fortunate to have his logistical expertise and his skillful management of the COVID relief funding. We want to wish you a wonderful retirement filled with good health, relaxation, and time spent with family and friends, and congratulations.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
All right, I've got like 3 pages of notes, so I'm going to condense it down to about a page or so. But so this is my 8th year on the school committee. I ran in 2015, and when I was elected, I remember talking to Dr. Sawyer about you coming on board for now the second time. And I remember his quote to me was, I'm so excited that Patrick's coming back. I trust him more than I trust myself. And it just said a lot to me. But of course, I was green to this whole experience. And every year since being on school committee, and we said it this morning when I was talking to Dr. Sawyer, we talk about a school year as kind of taking flight in the beginning and then landing the plane at the end of the year, which is kind of where we're at right now. And really the backbone of any school year resides within finance and operations, from my perspective at least, just based on the last 8 years. And I would say this is my 8th flight with Captain Patrick Collins at the helm, and I have to say it's been an honor and a pleasure to work with you, along with just an eye-opening experience about how the operations of any school district works. But we're just fortunate to have your skill set, your talents, and really just the excellence in public school finance and operations. We have the best in the business, in my perspective, as well as many others. Just outstanding budget transparency, right down to the penny, which I know is appreciated by everyone in the town. Fiscal projections are always spot on, within like a percentage or less, I know at times, which is pretty awesome. And you've really become the trusted advisor for the school committee when it comes to finance and operations. I mean, we really just can't, function without your guidance, which is so appreciative. I think of every budget cycle we've been through in the last 8 years, and many of them have been challenged. You say from anywhere from 2017 to 2021. And I can remember being in many town meetings early on where just trying to understand kind of the interactions with town meeting members and some of the concerns and questions that they would ask, some really difficult, challenging questions. And I just learned early on the way that you're able to respond with just factual, substantive information. By the third town meeting, I was so relaxed compared to the first two because I knew you'd get up there and you'd give them 5 or 6 examples as to why, these things are the way they are. So truly appreciate that. But I also appreciate the support you provided us during every negotiation. I've been on the negotiating subcommittee for the last 6 years, and you're always on speed dial or you're in the room helping us kind of understand what makes sense to land on a fair deal. And just the operations of this district and how smoothly they're run. I know it takes, it's a team effort, I know, but I think about the day-to-day operations, transportation, school security, safety, cafeteria operations, online payment implementation, and just there's too many things to count, to list. I can't list them all. But most importantly, what you helped us navigate through during COVID is just, I can't, there are no words to express the gratitude to you and everybody that worked with you to navigate through really uncharted waters, to keep everybody safe, the late nights, the weekends, just outstanding work. So thank you for your commitment to Shrewsbury Public Schools, and I wish you a happy retirement. Thank you.
You're very welcome, and I hope you don't mind if I put your number on block so it's not.
That's fine, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Collins, for your many years of service here in the Shrewsbury Public Schools. Although I've only known you formally now for a very short amount of time, you made an impression on me long before. I started watching school committee meetings regularly during COVID when it was must-see TV. And I was always in awe of your wealth of knowledge and the way that you stayed so calm, cool, and collected when you present yourself. You can be asked a complex question on the fly and you just have the answer. And a detailed answer with a deep historical background to support that. So I wish you the best in your retirement. You'll be missed, and I hope you're finally able to relax and enjoy time with your family.
Thank you very much, and good luck on your service on the committee.
Thank you.
I think I've worked with you the longest. And it's one of those where I was on the school council and you were here. And I remember, thinking about running for school committee, but the financial piece, we have a big fiduciary responsibility. That's one of our main roles. And you always provide that. I have confidence in everything that you do for us, and I will ask you hard questions. I will push you on data, but you always give us everything that we need. And as Mr. Wensky said, especially during negotiations, we call you at home. It could be late at night, but you are always available to help us with anything that we ask for, which was so helpful to make sure that we were doing the right thing for the staff and the right thing for the town. And the COVID piece, I think, is a lot of the work people don't know that you did behind the scenes. You learned a lot about nasal swabs and where to store furniture and all these things that were, who would have thought a finance person would be doing all of that? And you just readily stepped up to the role. You will be missed greatly. It's one of these roles that it's not easy for anybody to do, and it's not like normal budgeting. Your forecasting is better than anybody I've ever seen. You're always spot on, and I think it's that knowledge and experience you bring to the role. So I will miss you greatly, but I am very happy that you're able to retire. I hope Andrea is just as happy that you're going to be home a lot, but
I don't know yet. We'll see.
yeah, but we are very happy for you. So best of luck on this next exciting phase of your life.
Thank you so much. I appreciate
Dr.
that.
Sawyer?
Thank you. I have a couple of things to pass along from people who could not be here this evening. This first is an official citation from the Massachusetts State Senate from Senator Michael Moore that states for Patrick C. Collins, in recognition of your retirement from the Shrewsbury Public Schools after 27 years of dedicated service, with thanks for all you've done in support of public education. And signed by Karen Spilka, the President of the Senate, and Senator Moore, and wanted to send his best regards. And then also from our local state representative, Hannah Kane, a citation from the House of Representatives that says, in recognition of your well-deserved retirement, thank you for your 19 years of tremendously impactful service to the Shrewsbury Public Schools, your strong financial acumen, and fervent commitment to providing students the best education and taxpayers the best return on investment has been deeply appreciated. And signed by Speaker of the House Ronald Mariano and Representative Kane. And I know that among the many things that have been stated by the school committee members, Patrick's knowledge of finance at the state level and how state finances and state legislation is going to interact with what our local needs are and what we need to be cognizant of has always been one of his many, many strengths. So with that, I have the privilege, for those who are watching, Mr. Collins is actually going to be retiring at the end of August. We were able to work out that he'd be able to remain for July, although he'll be on taking some vacation time then, and through August as we transition to Mr. Chris Girardi to be our new Assistant Superintendent for Finance and Operations, and then he will mentor Mr. Girardi throughout the year as well, which is a wonderful opportunity for our district in a transition in this really such an important role. And we certainly will be celebrating Patrick when his career comes to an end in Shrewsbury in August. But for this, his last official school committee meeting that he'll be taking part in, it is certainly want to just make a few remarks. It certainly has been my honor and privilege to work with Patrick over these many years. I will always know that asking him to consider returning to Shrewsbury Public Schools to serve again in this critically important role will be one of the most important actions I will ever have taken as superintendent in this school district. And I am not the only person in the field who thinks he represents the absolute, quote-unquote, best in the business when it comes to school finance and operations. The positive impact that so many of you just referenced on Shrewsbury Public Schools and the community just cannot be overstated. His management of finance is impeccable, and I just want to make it very clear that we would not have the resources and the financial stability that we enjoy right now as a school district without his leadership. The operational override, I do not think, would have come to be in the first place, even as an opportunity, if it had not been for his leadership, much of it behind the scenes, and because of the credibility and trust that he built over so many years around what we needed and what needed to happen in order to avert a very, very serious crisis and really change that into the best, most stable financial situation we've had in well over a quarter century in the Shrewsbury Public Schools. As you mentioned, the management of all aspects of operations here are superb, thanks to Mr. Collins' leadership. And part of that is the day-to-day work in transportation and food services and just making sure the district runs appropriately, but also overseeing, as you mentioned, the building of multiple schools going back to when he first came on in Shrewsbury when Floral Street School was opening, to overseeing the construction of the new, quote-unquote, new Shrewsbury High School that's been in existence since 2002 now, the renovation of Oak Middle School subsequent to that, the Parker Road Preschool addition and renovation, and then again, most recently, the new Beale School, which is one of the best schools anywhere in the country in terms of its physical plant and layout. And these projects run on time, under budget, and in large part thanks to Mr. Collins' leadership at the local level, along with a host of other folks, of course. And as you all mentioned, the fact that we were blessed to have a United States Marine Logistics Officer, veteran, lead our operations through the COVID crisis, we could not have been more fortunate to have him at the helm with that. And what he did was unbelievable during that time. I personally will always be indebted for his support. I appreciate his thoughtful and pragmatic problem solving. I appreciate his wicked sense of humor, his skill in making sure that finances and operations are solid so we can focus, our team can focus on educating children, his very wise counsel across lots of things, even things certainly beyond finance and operations, and certainly I'm going to miss him greatly in that role. But as we recognize him this evening, I think it's also important just to say what an admirable and just deeply good person he is. He's a veteran who has done very much, very quietly for veterans in need. He's a Shrewsbury High School alum who's contributed so much to our community, a community he's incredibly loyal to, where he chose to come back and make his home and raise his family. He cares so deeply about the welfare of our students and families and staff. He has an incredible work ethic, drive to be successful and do the work. And oh, by the way, in his spare time, he's an ultramarathoner. I remember one time going to an event, it was on a Saturday evening, and what'd you do today? Oh, yeah, I went for a run, and his wife Andrea said, well, he did a 12-hour trail run at Mount Wachusett. Like, okay. Like, just, didn't know he had been working on that, but in his spare time. But he really is a remarkable individual. And I think most importantly, people who know him know that his dedication to and pride in his family is outstanding. And, his wife Andrea, his son Patrick, his daughters Megan and Haley, who are all wonderful people, and certainly it is palpable how much he cares for them and is able to balance this really important work that he's done, but also making sure that he's an excellent husband and father as well. So with that, thank you. We'll appropriately recognize you in August when your career does come to an end, but here in your last school committee meeting, on behalf of everyone in the Shrewsbury Public Schools, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate those generous comments from all of you. I really do. If you don't mind, I'd like to just say a couple things.
Absolutely.
Certainly, I've worked with a lot of great people over the past 27 years. Certainly far too many to call out by name. But I first want to make a note of gratitude to Dr. Bent, who first hired me and took a risk in hiring me back in 1996, a risk on several levels. But he was somebody from whom I learned a lot, and in fact, we both still keep in touch now. Certainly, to Dr. Sawyer, a deep debt of gratitude for rehiring me in 2015 and returning to Shrewsbury to be part of what is really a great leadership team, several of whom are sitting behind me right now as building principals and central office administrators. Dr. Sawyer and I have worked closely on many projects and also through the pandemic, and I can tell you that Shrewsbury is very fortunate to have a leader who is wholeheartedly dedicated to the students and the families of Shrewsbury, past and present. And I certainly consider Dr. Sawyer not only my boss, but a colleague and a great friend. And you don't get those situations very often. I certainly didn't grow up thinking or wanting to be a school business administrator. I certainly didn't know what one was. And given my college degree in business and my experience in the military, had no thoughts of what even entering this field. But certainly was influenced by my father, former superintendent and a lifetime educator, who explored me in a very gentle way to take a look at this. Both of my sisters are teachers as well, and my brother was off in the Army serving a career there. So I certainly didn't want to be the black sheep of the family, so I did explore it, and I'm forever indebted to him for his guidance and wisdom throughout my whole life. I certainly do look forward to my own kind of next chapter, Act 2, whatever that's going to be. But I've had a lot of fun in this work as well along the way, working with various teams of staff on school building projects. Those are the types of things that really are going to stick with me. The various building projects, the turf field, working with Brian LaRue on all the school security and the cashless payment systems projects. He and his team are just magicians, and certainly more recently, working with Meg Belcito and the special education team in supporting the opening of the RISE program. I'm certainly never going to forget moments like when the governor closed all the schools in March of 2020 because of the pandemic, or the day that we learned we're coming back in hybrid mode. I never would have thought that that was going to be something that was implemented. But, we worked through it, and certainly there's some other lighter moments, and one that is just ingrained in my memory to this day it was actually with Dr. Bent, and it was at a time when We would, about once a month, we'd go to various school cafeterias to have lunch, sit with the kids. We did that one day at Patton School. We happened to sit down, we happened to be at a kindergarten lunch, and we went through the line, and I got whatever they were serving, and at the time there was a salad bar, so Dr. Bent fixed himself. He's a fastidious eater, and so he had a nice little salad with greens and vegetables, and he put a big scoop of tuna fish on top of it. And I had what the kids had. I had like a hot dog and tater tots or something. And we sat down with all these little kindergartners, and they looked at us, and they're looking around, and then they see my lunch, and they see what they got, and they see what Dr. Bent has. And this one kindergartner who's sitting next to him takes his finger, and he goes over and he sticks his finger right into the scoop of tuna fish. He says, "Are you really going to eat that?" So, it's kind of fun moments like that, especially when kids were involved, that made this some really meaningful work. And I have to give special recognition to all the key players on the, what I would call the support and control team, which is, all of our facility staff, our school bus drivers and AA transportation, Beth Nichols and our food service staff, and the business office team with whom I worked most closely. Those are the folks that plug away every day, doing the payroll, making sure people were paid accurately and on time, about 1,000 people on a biweekly basis, paying all of the bills of the district, making sure our vendors get paid on time, and we're known as a quote-unquote quick-paying school district, and that's a good thing. And making sure all of our grants are managed properly and all the state reports that have to get done, get done. So, specifically, I want to say thank you to Dottie Flynn, to Sue Rapp, April Yu, Chris Fowler, Kim Fitzpatrick, Blake Stewart, and Yunmi Zhang, and a deep debt of gratitude, thanks to my fellow central office administrators who are behind me here, Barb Malone, Amy Clowder, Meg Belcito, and of course Jane Lazat, who's a lifetime friend and colleague. You don't get those situations very often in your life. And also to Beth McCullum, who's proofread every school committee report that you get and inevitably picked up typos along the way and made those better. So these are the folks that I'm going to miss the most, along with all of the building principals, some of whom are here this evening as well. And also want to mention something that we talk about occasionally that is very much true, and it's not hyperbole or not talk, and that is the great relationships with our municipal departments. And working with, whether it's the town accountant's office, the town treasurer's office, the police and fire departments, the DPW, the folks that plow the roads, and especially Kevin Mizikar in the town manager's office. So it really is a unique situation here. I've worked in 2 other school districts, and I know my colleagues who work in other school districts, and it is not that way in other places. And of course, a great thanks to all of you as school committee members. You are, and all the past school committee members that I've worked with. You're volunteers, and you're putting in a great deal of work. Sometimes, not most times, but sometimes you're getting negative feedback, but really appreciate all of your work and your professionalism and dedication that you bring to the role here. Again, this is not a situation that plays out in every other community. It's different, and it's different here in a very positive way, and that was another reason why I certainly wanted to come back to Shrewsbury. So, and as Dr. Sawyer mentioned, probably the biggest thanks goes to my wife, Andrea. She's been home. Sorry. She's been home the past 27 years. Pardon me. But, she gave up a career so that we could have this situation, and she was there for our kids every night. can't say that she always watched the meetings. Right now, she might be watching Love Island. I don't know, but she's going to have to learn to share the clicker, I think, on Wednesday nights at least. But great deal of thanks to her. So, in closing, I do want to say and wish my best to Chris Girardi behind me. I have every confidence that he's going to be an excellent school business administrator, assistant superintendent for finance and operations. And, I remember when I started, and I mentioned this to him and to other folks, that, I felt like it took me 3 full years to kind of get my sea legs. And so, I would hope that folks would give him that kind of same space and time to develop into the technical aspects of the role. He's certainly a great leader, and there's just a lot of technical aspects that take time. So I certainly look forward to mentoring him this upcoming school year, and wishing him the best, and all of you the best as well. So thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Don't leave yet, Pat. Don't leave yet. First, Ms. Heffernan was unable to be at our meeting tonight, and she wanted to pass along her congratulations on your retirement and all of her gratitude for everything that you've done. And we have a gift for you
Yes.
that we had a little talk with your wife.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you so much.
And there's something in there,
wow.
because we hear like you still run with wires. So
Oh my gosh,
you need to be a little more modern when you're out and running.
nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank Andrea. She was the
Well,
help on that.
all right. Thank you very much. I
You're
really
quite
appreciate
welcome.
this, and I'm sure that at some point that these 2 glasses will be used. Maybe it's a Wednesday night.
Or for
out
Andrea.
here, having a beverage that we can watch the school committee meeting or Love Island.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have a student recognition. What kind of a report and student recognition for our SHS DECA Business Club. Mr. Andrioli, Jason Andrioli is the advisor. He's unable to be with us tonight. So we have a couple of the students who are here, along with one of the key achievements for this group this year, which include Nyan Kul. He is the class of 2024. He earned a first-place state medal for the highest personal financial literacy written exam score. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Bazillo and the students.
Great, so, thanks for having us. Here we go, good. Thanks for having us, and I certainly want to express my gratitude towards Mr. Andriola, who stepped up as the advisor. He had a family emergency, so he couldn't make it this evening. I came in this evening and basically was going to support the group and Mr. Andriola, but they called me to pinch hit, so I'll pinch hit and open and turn it over to this fantastic group of students who've really knocked it out of the park this year with the DECA Club. So I'll turn it over, let them introduce themselves, name and grade, and then we'll go through our presentation.
My name is Fawaz Naeem. I'm a junior.
My name is Nayan. I'm a rising senior.
My name is Shiv Patel, and I'm a junior.
I'm Swathi, and I'm also a rising senior.
Sorry.
All right, so DECA, which stands for Distributive Education Clubs of America, is a nationwide competitive business club which prepares students in entrepreneurship in categories such as marketing, management, finance, and hospitality. And throughout the school year, DECA members participate in various business competitions at the state and international level, and in which they present something to the judge within their specific category. And for their competition, they can participate in something known as a role play, in which they're given a certain scenario and they have to act out a specific role. Or they can participate in a written category in which they present something to a judge, such as a startup plan for a business. Or they could also participate in something known as the Virtual Business Challenge, in which they virtually learn how to expand their business enterprise through e-commerce.
So some quick facts about DECA. DECA was founded in 1946, so it's been around for a long time. It has chapters in all 50 states and in 5 countries. And there are around 225,000 members in the high school division. There is also a collegiate division, but it's a little much smaller. There are over 60 colleges and businesses that partner with DECA, and they help to provide over $300,000 in scholarships annually, and they're merit-based scholarships that are provided to students who do well in the competitions. And then another interesting thing that I saw is that 91% of DECA members report that participation in DECA prepared them academically for college and career, and I think that really speaks to what DECA is trying to achieve. And this is through learning problem-solving skills, effective communication, teamwork, and professional behavior.
All right, so just to give you all an idea of how Deck Around goes, essentially students are given 8 to 10 minutes to prepare a topic. I personally compete in personal financial literacy, so I may see topics on banking or investing, things like that. So after we're given 8 to 10 minutes to prepare, we have to go speak with a judge for 8 to 10 minutes, and it's really off-the-cuff thinking. 8 to 10 minutes isn't a lot of time. So now if you look at the screen over here, this is essentially what the judge is seeing when they're grading you. It's a performance indicator. And there's real emphasis on 21st century skills like reasoning effectively, communicating clearly, and showing creativity. So we think with the continuation of business programs in the school, this club has been really helpful in developing that. Next slide. Yep. So now just to give us an idea of the DECA chapter development timeline this year, in April 22, we began conversations with Mass DECA State Advisor and Mr. Andriola, who, as Mr. Pizzillo mentioned, unfortunately couldn't be here today, and he agreed to be our chapter advisor. And then in May 2022, we met with the administration at SHS, like Mr. Lane, Mr. Pizzillo, to review the opportunity and benefits of having a DECA chapter at SHS, and we were immediately met with approval. We also met with the DECA State Advisor and state level officers. And then over the summer, we held organizational meetings to plan for the upcoming school year with the goal to be ready to compete during this school year. And on September 14, 2022, we held our first informational meeting.
And as Naeem previously mentioned, DECA has a strong importance on 21st century skills with the emphasis on that. And the benefits of DECA for our students at Shrewsbury High is that it encourages students to collaborate and work in a team with other peers. So that really boosts their emphasis on teamwork. It boosts creativity and critical thinking while problem solving through the role plays, written categories, and the virtual business challenges. It allows students to improve their public speaking skills alongside their confidence while presenting something. And it, just like Shiv said, it also provides direct access to scholarships, which could be really handy for kids going into college. It also allows students to work with industry professionals and students around the world. And during a competition, the judges are actually business professionals within the business world. And DECA also continues at the college level if students choose to do so.
So this is an overview of our competition season. There are 3 main competitions throughout the year, and the first was obviously districts. For us, it was at the DCU Center this year with over 800 students. We had around 33 students attending the conference. And then obviously states and internationals, if you qualify and you do well in your category, you'll be able to attend those conferences. And states was in Boston, and internationals was in Orlando, Florida.
So I'll be going over some of our key achievements this year. So throughout the year, we've had 62 registered student members in our chapter. And in October, we started off by attending the Fall State Leadership Conference, which was held at Bentley University, where we were able to network with other neighboring chapters in the state. And districts was held in January at the DCU Center, and we were in District 7, so with neighboring towns. And we had 12 district finalists with 1 first place finalist who was Shamika Kaniker in business management, and we had 5 others placed in the top 3. And then we advanced on to states, which was in March, and we had Nan Cole, who earned first place for the highest exam score, and second place overall in personal financial literacy. We also had 4 other state finalists. And then we had 3 members attend ICDC, which was held in Orlando, Florida, and Nan Cole was 1 international finalist in personal financial literacy.
So for some goals for the upcoming year, obviously this was just our first year, and we had 62 members for our club, which we think demonstrated the huge interest that students have for the business-related fields within our high school. And so we want to continue to increase our membership. We used an informational meeting at the beginning of the year, activity fair, and Colonial Way, and we think that really helped us through gaining the new members. And then secondly, we want to increase the number of state qualifiers and even international qualifiers, because we already had 3 going to internationals in just our first year. So I think the sky is really the limits for us. And then finally, increasing our fundraising efforts with partnership opportunities with businesses, because as you know, through the 3 different conferences, it can cost quite a bit, and we would like to reduce the cost significantly for our students.
And here are some of the highlights of our year, starting from the informational meeting to our basketball fundraiser and all the way to the end with the ICDC trip.
Great. Well, they'll
Excellent.
happily answer any questions you may have.
Any questions or comments from the, Ms. Heffernan? I called you Ms. Heffernan. Ms. Boucher?
I just wanted to congratulate you all. It's amazing that you've been able to achieve this level of success after 1 year. I love the fact that you, as students, brought this to the administration because you wanted this club to be, get off the ground at Shrewsbury High School. I think that's wonderful. I think, that you can present these opportunities now to students that they can go and try out, maybe looking at entrepreneurship, maybe marketing, maybe, finance, and see maybe this is potentially like a major that they want to pursue in college. It's great that they're able to get that type of experience at the high school level. And in addition to looking at business skills, you're also developing a lot of great other critical thinking, presentation skills. So just hats off. I think it's wonderful, and wish you all continued success. And I think the idea about fundraising and trying to develop business partnerships to do so next year to help decrease the cost of your travel to some of these competitions is an excellent one. So thank you very much for your report tonight.
Mr. Winsky?
Yeah, first I'd also like to congratulate Jason Andriola, who I know is not here, but I know being on the board of Shrewsbury Education Foundation, he received a few nominations and actually won a Shrewsbury Education Foundation Award for Excellence, John P. Collins Award, Annual Award for Excellence, and spoke to this very club and how much time and effort he put into it. And I'm so impressed with how much you've accomplished in just a year's time, as Ms. Boucher said. And I just love the teamwork and collaboration that this promotes as well as kind of future thinking into, academics and college. And what inspired you to get involved in this club?
We were all interested in actually pursuing business and economics or going into the business field in the future. And we noticed there's an absence of a competitive business club that really gives students the opportunity to actually interact with business professionals and see what they're good at in the business world. So we thought that DECA was a perfect opportunity alongside the core curriculum classes that are offered at Shrewsbury High.
Sure, that's great. I mean, I'm just thinking about, we had honored last week speech and debate team and the esports team for what's becoming a dynasty with all the accomplishments. And just in a year, you're placing in state and nationals, and it's very impressive. So congratulations.
As a business major myself in my graduate and undergrad in business and finance, I was like, this is wonderful because you could be in pharmaceuticals or engineering, but you need the business layer too. You need the people who are running that company. And you're learning amazing skills already at your age, and the soft skills too, not just the academic, but those soft skills. And for hiring, those are the ones that we really look at, because you might know all about the finance side, but if you can't interact in that room or with the people that you need to sell a product to, or whatever it is, those are the skills we really want to make sure you have as well. So I'm very impressed by this, again, in the first year. And I love the part that you're doing fundraising, you're looking at ways to improve, but also a business partnership and maybe finding those local sponsors to help with that. One question I do have, because we have added some business courses and we've really pushed for more funding for that as well. Are there any courses that you think are needed? It's a little open-ended question, I know, maybe around economics or other areas that you think would help students get better prepared for college and work.
Sure. So I personally take honors economics at the high school right now, and we do offer AP Macro and AP Macroeconomics through virtual high school. But I know me and a lot of my other classmates want to take these classes as like an in-person class, not through virtual high school.
Right.
So I think if that's possible, that would be a great opportunity for the school.
Perfect. Thank you. Dr. Sawyer.
I want to thank our student leaders here for bringing this idea forward and getting this off the ground, and the support that Mr. Pizzillo and Mr. Lane and certainly Mr. Andriola provided to get this to be such a successful piece. But it wouldn't have happened without you, the students, and for you and all the other ones who participated. We think this was a great example of how a co-curricular activity can help round out the kind of skill set that you develop and learn as a high school student. I have the benefit of seeing this through two different lenses, one as superintendent and one because my daughter participated in DECA, which was not something that was on her screen, and she gave it a try and really took to it and had a wonderful experience. And to see her gain some of the pieces that otherwise, based on other things that she does, she wouldn't have experienced, was really, and the fact that, you know, through these competitions, you're connecting with other kids from other schools, you're seeing other places. There's just a whole host of things educationally that come with that. So I'm really pleased that it's off to such a great start. I agree with you that there's a lot of potential, and I think that next year it's going to continue to grow, and I think over time it will be successful, as I'm very convinced you all will be as well. So, you know, when you are quite successful people in the world of business, remember that we are you know, donations are tax deductible to the extent allowed by law. And you know, you might be writing one of those big checks someday to us that we could celebrate here at school committee. But regardless, it's not really about, you know, financial success can be terrific, but it's really about making a difference and making a contribution. And I think that you all can feel proud that you've made a real contribution to your school community that's going to last a very long time. So thank you. At this time, I want to invite you all to come up and shake the hands of the committee and be congratulated, but also recognizing Nayan for his first place. He was the top student overall in the state of Massachusetts with the highest personal financial literacy written exam score. So congratulations on that achievement, and we have a little certificate for you for that, but if all of you can come up and be recognized, we'd appreciate that. Congratulations. You can come right up and shake your hands, that'd be great. Wonderful. Super job.
Congratulations. Very impressive.
Congratulations.
It's always a tough act to follow students, that's for sure.
No.
Next on the agenda, we are going to have an update report on our social and emotional learning and well-being initiatives, and I will turn it over to Dr. Lazat, and she's got some staff members with her.
Thank you for inviting us this evening. I'm going to ask those who are joining us to introduce themselves, and we'll go from there. So Jane Lazat, Assistant Superintendent for Community Partnerships and Wellbeing.
Sinead Slabine, Oak Middle School, 7th grade ELA. Sarah Powers, 7th grade Special Education at Oak.
Hannah Collins, I'm 6th grade Math and Science at Sherwood.
Vivian Dos Santos, freshman student at Shrewsbury High School.
Valentina Fonseca, also freshman student at Shrewsbury High School. I'm Jen Wilson, I'm the ILC teacher at Sherwood.
Jordan Greenstein, mindfulness director. Hello.
Thank you.
And just before we continue, when it comes time to speak, folks on the ends are really have to get close to those microphones on the table, or they're not going to be able to hear you on the broadcast. So just when it comes time, you can project towards those. That would be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is it okay that we're just up?
Yeah, you're perfect.
Okay. So we're here to talk about, share some examples of work that's going on across the district as that work relates to the enhanced well-being of all, one of our 3 commitments here in the Shrewsbury Public Schools. On this slide, you see 2 pictures. On the left, High Five Friday going on at Beals School, one way of several that take place every day at our elementary schools, middle schools, and high school. Greeting one another, we know, is critical to our joy and sense of belonging. And no matter what school you are at, in the morning and in the afternoon, you see staff and students greeting one another, saying good morning, how are you doing, etc. On the right, this is a photo I stole from Mr. Kelly's newsletter. This past week, Girls on the Run had their 5K at Polar Park. Teachers, staff, school nurses dedicate several hours of time preparing lessons that are taught before the Girls on the Run practices, where they walk and run twice a week. And here, pictured here are some Sherwood teachers, adjustment counselor, and students. The quote is from one of the 3 books that we read as a staff, some staff read this year, The Good Life. Attention is the most basic form of love, and we truly believe that. Some examples that we are in your report, but also that we'd like to share with the community include morning announcements in all of our schools that include jokes, birthdays, celebrations, and words of wisdom. Most often, those morning announcements are shared by students and administrators. After school and school vacation and summer extensions programming, this year 90 classes were offered throughout the year with 1,161 students participating. An example of well-being, the Safe Routes to School partnership with the Massachusetts Department of Transportation. Patton School had their Walking Wednesdays several times, and I was able to join in where staff and the school nurse met at different locations and students walked to school with their principal and staff, teachers. Lots of PTO-sponsored fitness opportunities, STEM, etc., unified clubs and sports at all levels. Presentations by community partners, including Detect Together. Detect Together came to the high school and presented to all students grades 9 through 12 earlier in the year. Girls on the Run, in addition to running and walking clubs that take place at our schools before and after school. Some schools have the running and walking in the gym before the school day starts, while others wait till after school. Lots of outdoor activities and encouragement to get outside even when it's sprinkling or snowing, recess, physical education, planting of school gardens. You'll hear a little more about that during our presentation. Take a break opportunities. It looks like it's time to get up and dance and move our bodies. Music playing in the hallways at Shrewsbury High School on Fridays. Staff well-being, for staff by staff offerings. We offer some classes during the year, ukulele, yoga, meditation, Reiki this year. Some staff choose to participate in those, other staff cannot due to family commitments and tutoring and other jobs that they have after school. But it's wonderful to get together when we can and are able to do that. Chi running and chi running, okay, chi running and chi walking. Was 2 workshops offered on Saturdays from 9 to 1 to both town employees and Shrewsbury Public Schools employees. Book study groups pictured here on the slide, The Good Life, The Book of Joy, What Happened to You. We had several, a few dozen staff participating in those, and we look to grow all of these opportunities next year. We have a Summer Institute course. Jordan is co-teaching with Beth McInerney at Beale School entitled Mindfulness and Wellbeing, Living with Purpose and Peace. That closed out with 38 participants, so very popular course coming up. We have our 2 teams, Adult Wellness Leadership Team and an SEL Leadership Team I'll speak about in a few minutes, who will be meeting this summer and during the school year, again with a focus on growing our own and strengthening our wellness as staff. Looking forward to reading and reviewing. We've had a few hundred teachers and staff complete a wellness survey that was sent just over the weekend, and we'll be using that data to inform our next steps. I'm going to hand it over to Jordan at this time.
Probably get a little closer and just face towards it, that would be great.
Is this okay right here, you think? All right. Well, it's wonderful to be back here. Jordan Grisheim, Mindfulness Director. I don't want to talk too much. I want to leave it to the teachers and students to speak about mindfulness programming, but I'm here to answer any questions and support this group. The highlight, which we'll see in a moment, or one of the highlights from this school year have been these Zoom sessions that were born out of me being the only mindfulness director in the district. How can I be everywhere at once with only being one person? Simultaneously continuing to amplify student leadership voices. Last year it was worked a lot with 4th grade to train them as mindfulness teachers, and that work now they're in 5th grade. So how to continue to give them those opportunities as well as train the next group of 4th graders. Both of those things happened, and we'll see. Let's watch the video and see.
Sure. Open your fingers and lift up your arms. And bring them back down and squeeze your fingers back together as you exhale. You can imagine what this flower smells like.
Very brief window into something that really lights me up as an educator, seeing 5th graders in the position of leadership, teacher, sharing, and a very engaged Zoom call that sometimes 8 classes, it's 200 students approximately coming on and seeing and being, receiving the benefit of mindfulness taught from 5th graders who have developed over the 2 years now an embodied understanding of what mindfulness is for them, and being able to share skills, techniques, ways of being with stress and emotions with the young people, and it's in the younger people, and it's engaging. They're asking them now, turn and talk to the person next to you, share what mindfulness means to you, share how you're feeling right now. Would anyone like to come up to the camera and share a mindfulness strategy or tell us what? So there's a lot of connection between Sherwood and the 5 elementary schools in that way. Yeah, Zoom calls. And the next slide is an image of me in a high school classroom push-in. That's been another piece of this year's moving.
You can open your fingers.
I was able to have a lot more presence in the high school, more connection with administrators. I know that was a desire that I had from last year. Both classroom push-ins, meeting with small groups of students, individual students, collaborating with administration and counselors, as well as presentation. Lots of groups of people coming together. After school program, mindfulness and drumming even happened. Lots to talk about. I'm here to answer any questions, but just let someone else speak now.
Yes, actually. Is this a good time to have our
Sure.
welcoming meditation, our students? Are you ready?
Yep.
Terrific.
Hi everyone. Today we're going to be talking about the welcome mindfulness practice that we have learned from Mr. Jordan.
Throughout all the classes we've had with Mr. Jordan, we've learned many ways to cope with stress and negative emotions, and any emotions, to be honest. But the one that has stuck with us the most has been the welcome meditation.
I've used the welcome meditation multiple times. Mr. Jordan had always taught us that you're able to do it on your own time, wherever and whenever. I can do it at home, with my friends, or even sitting at my desk trying to get my finals done. It helps me because it helps me become more aware of myself and inner thoughts, but as well as everything around me.
When stress clouds my mind, I've used the welcome meditation to step back and acknowledge the way I'm feeling and what's causing me to feel that way. And by doing that, I can reflect instead of worrying about my problems. I can reflect and try to find a way to solve them instead of worrying.
Now we would like to take you guys through the welcome practice. You can participate if you would like.
Firstly, you can start by getting as comfortable as you can, or as you want. You can close your eyes if you would like, and we can start by taking 4 deep breaths in and out.
This is where we can start to welcome any thoughts, emotions, and challenges. Welcome who you are, how you're feeling right now, any nervousness, any feelings, and you can just allow it all in. You may come across some scary thoughts, but you want to accept anything your body and mind needs to tell you and not shut it out. Anything that may come along the way, no matter how difficult it may be.
Now, let's take 30 seconds to just sit here and welcome any thoughts.
If you would like, you can just take some more deep breaths in and out, and again, just welcome. Continue welcoming anything your mind needs to tell you. Let's do this for another 30 seconds.
Now we can start to come back, slowly opening your eyes, and you can take a few more deep breaths if you want, and you can welcome yourself back into the room.
Thank you. At this time, I invite Jen Wilson from Sherwood to share ways in which mindfulness have impacted her students and staff.
And first, I want to say thank you. That was perfect timing before I need to speak. So my name's Jen Wilson. As I said before, I'm the ILC teacher at Sherwood Middle School. The students in my classroom have a variety of different needs, different learning styles, and different struggles managing emotions and behaviors. Prior to starting mindfulness with Mr. Jordan, my class struggled to find a common ground on how to handle difficult tasks and situations. They had a hard time regulating emotions and social situations and during academic times. I heard about the mindfulness program offered, and I immediately reached out to Jordan. Jordan came into our classroom twice a week for the first half of the year. We would exchange thoughts about what upcoming sessions should focus around. We'd keep in touch about specific situations that had occurred, and most importantly, collaborated to ensure that we were helping all of the students in ILC by providing lifelong skills. Throughout the year, students learned about mindfulness. They began to understand what mindfulness was and how to implement it throughout their day. They began to realize it wasn't a class. It's not just another thing to do on their list. My students learned that mindfulness can be brought into all academics and throughout their everyday lives. For example, when I asked my students the question, how has mindfulness impacted you? I was expecting answers such as, it makes me calm, it makes me relaxed, it makes me ready to learn. Instead, the answers I got were, mindfulness helps me connect with others. I'm able to connect with others by liking the same things, but also by putting myself in their shoes to help them get through bad days. It helps me be a better friend. I had another student share that mindfulness makes me a better athlete. I play my worst when I just focus on me, but when I'm mindful and think of other people on the court and think of how others are feeling during the game, I play my best and my team usually wins. In academics, we use mindfulness strategies prior to taking tests, but also to promote self-advocacy. My students are able to be aware of their body and thoughts and how they connect. For example, I had a student at the beginning of the year who always had a stomach ache or a headache prior to taking an assessment with me or completing a worksheet. They weren't able to self-advocate this and when they were nervous, and they would try to escape the situation instead by asking to go to the nurse. This student is now able to say to me, I'm starting to feel uneasy and not well, but I think it's because I need help with this. Mindfulness has also improved my students' overall ability in creative writing. We often apply specific skills from programs to help us create images in our mind while reading in order to build comprehension. Mindfulness assists in this process. My students are able to think of specific people, places, and things in their mind and use their words to describe what they see. This helps them add details into their writing pieces and put their thoughts into words. Mindfulness has also improved my students' work output in academics because they now have strategies. I've noticed before while students are working on tasks that they'll write little positive self-notes on their worksheet saying, you can do this, or yes, I can. My students also advocate for breaks or to have moments. These moments might be a walk to reset, a moment with just their head down, or a moment to just gather their thoughts and able to verbalize how they're feeling rather than acting out physically. The biggest difference from the start of the year to now that I see with my class is empathy. They are able to connect with others and realize how their actions and words impact others. They are mindful of their actions and think before speaking, for most days. Everyone has a bad day once in a while, so when they do act out physically or verbally, they show remorse and apologize. At the beginning of the year, this was rare. They have shown concern for their peers and want their peers to also feel happiness. Have you ever met a group of 5th graders that play a game and try to lose purposely to allow their classmate to have a turn winning? It happens in my room daily now. They share with me, I won yesterday and it made me feel so happy. I really want so-and-so to win so they can feel that way too. It's really amazing to witness. In the ILC classroom, we also have many staff and paraprofessionals in the rooms or aides. They have also asked me to talk about the benefits of having mindfulness for adults and staff. Staff members in the ILC room have mentioned how having Mr. Jordan coming into the room weekly has somewhat felt like a year-long training. They feel more prepared to handle certain challenges across the day that may occur with students. Mindfulness also helps them to show up as the best versions of themselves for the students. They are active participants throughout mindfulness and understand the importance of modeling for our students. It has been mentioned to me that it also helps them focus on work and be fully present rather than thinking about everything that needs to happen at home. My favorite comment made is when I have substitutes come into my room when they came into my room at the beginning of the year, and now they come in and they say, wow, is this the same group of students? It's like a different classroom. Comments like this also make me practice mindfulness as well to reflect on how much we've grown. I'd like to end by making this comment. It's so important for teachers and staff to understand that Mr. Jordan's mindfulness program should not be looked as another to-do. Think of it as a forever, continuously working on self-improvement, which then allows us to show up as our best selves for our students, which then when we model that for our students, it impacts them in a positive way as well. It's a domino effect. It has benefited my students, staff in my room, and myself in more ways than I could have imagined.
Thank you for your thoughtful comments, and thank you to the school committee for supporting Jordan's position and for the students who shared. We're going to move along with social emotional learning, mindfulness being one incredible strategy and way of being that we experience in our schools. And as we look at district-wide social emotional learning, we know it takes a village, teachers, staff, parents, students, all working together to cultivate the commitment and support for social emotional learning that we know is needed for adults and students. Assess SEL resources and needs, and we've been doing that throughout the course of the year. That work will continue, as I mentioned, this summer and into the next school year. Establishing classroom, school-wide, and community SEL programming in a systemic way and with fidelity. That is a major goal, very important one that we have. Tracking progress, taking data, asking for student and staff input, and measuring that over time, while establishing systems for measurement and continuous improvement. Short-term student outcomes include social emotional skills. Academic performance, we know, is better when students feel that sense of welcoming, belonging, encouragement to take risks, take a breath when needed, positive attitudes towards self, others, and tasks in which we're engaged, positive social behaviors and relationships, fewer disciplinary problems, and reduced emotional distress. Long-term student outcomes, including high school graduation, college and career readiness, healthy relationships throughout life, mental health, reduced criminal behavior and discipline again, and engaged citizenship. I'm going to pass it along to Hannah Collins, grade 6 teacher at Sherwood Middle School.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk a little bit about what we've done. So I'm also a member of the SEL committee at Sherwood, and I've been a member of that committee the whole time I've been there, so about 5 years. And this year we really focused on integrating the Character Strong curriculum at Sherwood and bringing it into our morning meetings, bringing it into our classrooms, and finding a shared language among 5th and 6th grade, among all of our teams. It's a big school to make sure we can all be on the same page. So you can see on this slide that we have
9 months, each has like a value or a trait that we emphasize. And the 5th grade curriculum, every month kind of talks about what that value is, how you can use it. As a lot of it is on stress management, which I really thought was like a really nice way to help them see why responsibility can help you feel less stressed, how empathy can help you feel less stressed, help them with social issues. And I know the Character Strong curriculum is something they've been using at the high school prior to us adopting it as well. And I think it's really nice that we district-wide are taking that step. I kind of wanted to give you a glimpse into what it looks like in my classroom. So I am on 6 Navy, which is a co-taught team, and I have to give credit where it's due to my co-teacher who thinks of some of the fun things to put on the slides every day. Shannon Roll is an incredible, she's my right hand. So every week we have a different, every day of the week we have a different thing for our students to do. So last week on Monday was my birthday, so we celebrated that. But then we also had a journal prompt where they had to think of something they accomplished. And they completed that journal prompt, they submitted, it's something short, quick, and that kind of leads into conversations. We always have something fun, like which team are you on, breakfast-wise, that just creates like a fun conversation to start the day. And kind of just relieves that stress of coming in. On Tuesdays, they have a Tuesday tale they write each week. So they have this image, so we bring in some of that creative writing. Again, just something to start the day that's easy, not high stress. We were talking about slushies last week as well. But it's part of our routine each day. We have some quotes that connect to our core value of the month, and just little reminders as well. And then on Wednesday, we did something interesting. They had actually completed that same journal prompt that we assigned Monday back in October. So they went back to their October journal prompt and they looked back to see like, well, what's changed? What did you reference back then that maybe you reference now? They filled out, they filled out a little survey on Schoology of like what they saw was different, what they were proud of about themselves. And for a lot of them, it was really nice to kind of reflect back and be like, oh, in October I talked about dance, but in June I talked about math. And they were surprised by that. So that was really cool. And again, just little, how do you like your blanket at night? Just fun things to kind of just help them connect in like a random way every day. We also do a Wednesday Wordle every day, which Wordle is still going strong down in 6th grade. And then finally on Thursdays, we sometimes have like creative prompts. This one connects back to the lesson we were gonna do in homeroom that day. So they had to think about like, what are some creative activities that help you feel calm? And that connected to what we did in Character Strong during homeroom time. So oftentimes they'll have their prompts that connect to what we're talking about or something that we'll discuss later in the week. And then again, another teaser or something to kind of get their brains working in a different way. And then on every Friday, we celebrate a different country. And so the students, they tell us what countries they want to hear about. We pull from our cultures within our classroom, just some countries maybe they're curious, they haven't heard anything about. So it's just kind of a fun way for them to learn about the countries of the world and share information they know and share about their own cultures. In a no stress, like really casual conversation that normalizes those conversations. And I think they're really important. And they've led to students really having a different understanding of each other's cultures, each other's thoughts, where they're coming from, their family backgrounds, which has been nice. This is how we're kind of, next year we're gonna have a little bit of a longer block in that morning where it's coming in. So right now it's about 15 minutes where kids are kind of trickling in. And next year with the time change, it's gonna be a little bit different. So we started this is kind of an example of what we're already thinking of for next year. Still incorporating a lot of what we had, but then just making it a little bit more, incorporating some more like choices into it, having a daily check-in. I think that's one thing that we've done in the past that I know was really important, where they just check in and say like, how are you today? And it's just kind of an emotional scale, just filling in. And this is, again, just an example of what I do on my team, but I know that a lot of teams across the school do similar things. We all kind of have that morning slide sort of routine for the most part, and just trying to kind of have consistent, easy ways for students to come in the morning, feel connected, feel like they can get into that rhythm of school without feeling stress the minute they walk in, asking about homework, asking about how did you do last night, what's today, just not even talking about the schedule, just starting our day in a calm and fun way in sixth grade.
Thank you, Hannah. Before Sinead and Sarah share, I'd be remiss not to thank the elementary. We had an elementary team work very hard developing an SEL monthly calendar. Jackie Marcello and Meg Bartlett, along with Meg Belcito, last year developed a calendar, and we have finessed it. We continue to work to strengthen the calendar. We used that throughout the year, shared it at Sherwood. We want to thank Beal and Floral because they hosted us a couple weeks ago. Sherwood teachers came to those schools, visited to see what arrival looked like. What do those first 30 minutes of the day look like? What does a check-in? Many teachers have QR codes up, and the students respond as far as how they are feeling today and what they're looking forward to, et cetera. So a big thanks to the elementary principals and teams and special ed.
So we wanted to start by focusing on the SEL that we see throughout our day, week, and month. I'm on the SEB committee as well, and one of the things that came out of that committee was that people need to be more aware of what's already happening. And so we wanted to kind of like show some of the things that we're already doing on team every day that we think are super important to social emotional learning.
All right. So one thing that we have started this year that we've had a lot of fun with, and it has grown exponentially, is book club. So maybe once a month right now, I think we want to increase the frequency next year. We get together with anyone who's joined book club out of our 100-person team, but also any adult in the building who has wanted to join. And we kind of have a lunch party, and we do various book-related talks. So you might show your book cover, and you have to make 3 guesses about what your book is about. We've talked about our next one being wrap the book in a paper bag and make some guesses, like a blind date with the book. And because so many people and our connections across the school building, so many kids who aren't on our team have joined actually. And if you read for 20 minutes any night, you can come down and put a sticker on the book club poster. And so the poster has grown and grown and grown.
Yeah,
and,
this is not the most updated one.
And so while some of our off-team kids aren't coming to our book club meetings, we're talking about books. It gives you that connect point in the hallway when you see somebody. So that's book club.
We both have classroom libraries that we like to keep up to date, and kids will come in and grab a book and ask to take it out, and then we'll get to talk about it. So it's been a really awesome way to connect with the kids. One of our team members, Dan O'Brien, he does the chess club, and chess is not something that I have mastered yet, but the kids are so good at it, and by the end of the year, they're just so in love with it. They'll try to see if there's any time within class where they can play chess. They can go grab the boards. And then he has a club after school every Wednesday where he has, I believe he's up to 60 people.
60 plus.
He had to get a second person to help him with the club because it was getting so big. And he does that every Wednesday all year long and has such a following. So it's just a really amazing thing to see. I'm a special education teacher, and some of my kids are so in love with it, and they get these awesome wins from it because they get to play with all the other kids, and have become very, very good at it.
And then Color Cup events. I'm sure many of you are familiar with this. This was...
And the reason our hair is green.
Field day. But we have Color Cup events that go school-wide all year. It's not unique to just our team, but unique to Oak Middle School that are really special.
We have Work Hard and Shine Awards that we give out every month to our kids. We pick like 5-6 kids every month that get an award for showing that they work hard in the class, but really being a role model, and those kids who shine, stand out, just do wonderful things for the rest of the team or for themselves, just show us growth and progress, and it's just a really nice way to recognize the kids throughout the year and help them see what the progress they're making and how they're moving forward, and kind of just to celebrate.
It's become an occasion for a bi-weekly team meeting for us too.
Yes.
So. Another really special thing, Sarah and I are co-teachers. We do First Chapter Friday this year. It was our first full year of it, and it was an idea we had seen on Instagram actually. So we put aside 10 to 15 minutes of our class every Friday, and we get a different audiobook from Libby or from Sora and the text, and we follow and listen along, and we hit all different genres, all different representations of all types. In this data piece up here, you can see we surveyed the kids halfway through the year, and we asked, have you seen yourself in a book? And I think this number was around 80% of kids said that they felt seen. So each month we celebrate whatever's going on. This happens to be September, so it was Hispanic Heritage Month. So we featured 2 out of the 4 books that month. We featured Hispanic voices. So we've done that monthly. And then on that same survey, we surveyed the kids, and we said, has First Chapter Friday encouraged you to read independently? And between 85 to 90%, I'm forgetting the exact number, said yes. So it was it's been a big team builder for us.
We were also able to poll them on the characters that they've seen so far and whether or not there was something that they were looking for that we haven't hit. So we got a lot of kids who were very open and honest about finding a character that met their, I guess, that they could see themselves in. So we had a lot of kids ask for students with on the autism spectrum or with ADHD, and we were able to find a few titles that we could include so that all the kids could kind of see themselves in the books, which is awesome. We do the extent. Are we taking? Okay.
Sorry.
I know, sorry.
No, you're doing great.
Well, then I'll just skip to this one. The after-school activity wall was something that came back. I'm part of the advisory SEL committee at our school, and we surveyed the kids in the middle of the year and one of the things that came back from it was that they didn't feel like they knew what was going on in the school. So me and a few other coworkers, teachers in the building, we made this after-school activity wall, and it shows the days of the week and what activity, who runs it, a little description of it, and then it has the days that the late bus is running so that they know kind of like when they could stay after. And then we listed a bunch of other stuff that's not pictured on the side.
This one is really cool to us because it started in 2015 and it really has grown. This was Career Day, and it's something that was kind of an all-hands-on-deck team effort to get this off the ground. Over 460 kids, I think we actually gained more than that number, so closer to 500 really participated. We had over 60 professionals come in, and our kids prepared extensively, all 7th graders, to be ready for this. So some of the conversations we had in the week leading up to it, we did Career Day boot camp. So what to wear in the workplace. We talked actually about salary, and a lot of the kids say, like, is this a good number? Do you want this number? So we did a making meeting of salary day and talked about, okay, when you're 25, what do you want to be able to do? Do you want to have an apartment? And do you want to have a dog? And do you want to listen to Spotify? And all that stuff. So you can see on that QR code, we shared all our resources, but we talked about things like how to jump into a conversation in an interview, what your body language should look like. We called it the smile and nod. We threw them curveballs and in simulations, and they had to react. So it was a really special project.
Advisory is something that we both are huge fans of at our school. Like I said, I've been on the committee, so it's been a real work in progress. We are using Character Strong as well. And we, another coworker and I went through the Character Strong program, and we assigned themes for our months as well, just like you did. And then we were able to line up Character Strong lessons that went with each theme so that the teachers had kind of a framework to go off of for advisory. And then through that, we've been able to use the Character Strong lessons, but incorporate some more current and interactive things for the kids to do. So it ranges from things about friendship and we talked about the Boston Bruins player who was drafted but then had some issues that came out, and all the way to things like the Silent Mind Maze, where we taped off boxes in our rooms and the kids in their mind made a maze, and silently the rest of the kids had to make it through it and without speaking, and the person would just have to say no if you went the wrong way. So then the kids would have to remember. So we've done a variety of things through the advisory program, which has been so amazing for us. And in the 2 years that we've done it now, I think the biggest standout for me is that the kids are sad when we don't have it. It like makes me so happy. If like with MCAS schedule and stuff, we've had to cancel it for that week, and they actually get upset. They miss it. So I think
to put it back in.
yeah, yeah. So I think that's been really great for us. We have a mood meter every single week. So it is a QR code that you can see there, and the kids scan it when they come in. They know that's the routine. They scan it, and it asks them questions like, what's one thing you're looking forward to this week? What's one thing that happened that maybe wasn't so great if you wanted to share? And then it leaves room for, do you want a teacher to check in with you? Do you want a counselor to check in with you? And they rate themselves on a scale. Our spreadsheet automatically picks up if anyone does under 5, so that we can kind of check it out, and if anyone says that they want to see a counselor, so that we can refer them to a counselor. I think that this survey has been huge for us because we get a variety of things. We get kids telling us just crazy stories that are super funny and cute, to kids telling us things like, I got a concussion, but didn't tell us in person, So it's been really good to be able to give them this opportunity to give us the information that we really benefit from and need, without having to say it to our faces, which some of them, it's hard for them. So that's been pretty awesome. Then again, as part of the advisory committee that I'm on, we did a reflection for the whole school, and of course we got some negative things like, I wish we just had regular class, I wish class would continue, but most of them were really truly positive and amazing. I learned some helpful strategies for high school. I learned to have a trusted adult. I learned how to make friendship bracelets. I learned to be kind and be a good human. I learned strategies to better control my anger and handle my feelings better. We also asked them what their definition of advisory was, and the change from the first time we asked them to this time was huge. Their understanding of what the program is and why they're doing it was it was great to read. Okay, just because this is awesome. Can we? Okay. We did for mental health awareness. I'm sorry, I'm talking so much. You can go. Okay. We did for Mental Health Awareness Month. We were able to partner with several people actually, and we got a lot of donations from Home Depot, Ocean State Job Lot, and Papa's Hardware with Jane's help. And we redid all the garden beds in front of Oak Middle School. Our secretary wanted them to be beautiful for all the upcoming events, so we took on the job, and the kids were so responsible about it. They made it their own. It took about 2 or 3 days for us to go through the process of taking out the old gardens and putting in the new ones, and it was pretty hands-off for us. They did all the heavy lifting. They made a schedule for watering, so they've been watering every day since then, and throughout the year they've asked us what we're going to do about the summer, how we're going to handle it, because they want to come back to some beautiful gardens. And then we had an opportunity to bring some people in to tell our kids about another cool thing.
So our finishing touch was to bring in, and part of our donations we spent on rocks. And we had 2 sponsors, very special to me and someone else up here. 2 sponsors come in and talk about Zoe's Rocks project that they started, and talk about how the purpose of the rocks, and to spread kindness and positivity, and to take what you need, and to destigmatize anything negative around mental health. And our kids really took to it, and even thinking about, what do you put on your rock? And so they coached us through that, and our donations helped us with paint and paintbrushes and rocks. And so now we have 100 rocks modge-podged and put in the garden beds.
Thank you very much. So this work continues, and it's just so important, and there's so much gratitude to those sitting here at the table and those behind me, and staff who take time to care about students. elementary principal told me just yesterday, twin day at their school, and a teacher learned from a child that they didn't have a twin, but they had friends who welcomed that child to their twin group. The teacher went out at 8 o'clock that night to a specific store miles from her home, bought this child the twin outfit so that that child could be included. But the stories we could sit here for 24 hours plus and share. We won't. We've taken our time, but we thank you for listening. Lots more detail in the report for those at home who would like to read more about SEL and well-being in Shrewsbury Public Schools.
Great, thank you. Any questions or comments?
I'd just like to thank you all for the report. There's just so much good work going on, and to highlight it for us, it's great. I would like to thank the students for leading us in the mindfulness exercise. And I had a question. Do you do that in the beginning of the day to kind of like help you get set for your school day? Is that?
Usually today I did it before both of my finals, and that's what I plan on doing, to do it before my finals. But it's honestly, like I said, it's wherever and whenever you need it, and that's what Mr. Jordan has always taught us. Like, you can be walking in a hallway, walking on the street, and you're like, I just need a minute, and it's just like something you can do quickly or however much time you need. So that's what I like about it, that like you can do it wherever and whenever you want, you know?
That's great. I'd also like to just make a comment about bringing the mindfulness to the high school. I think that's wonderful. I love to see that it's growing and that you're bringing it to that level of, because I know a lot of work was done at the elementary school last year, and I think it's great that it's expanding to the older students. So I'm also glad, Jane, to see the staff and well-being, the focus on that, and the development of the adult wellness leadership team. I think that's really great. And I just also wanted to make a comment about the after-school activity wall. I think that's wonderful. As you know, we eliminated the activity fee last year to make those activities free of charge for all students. So the fact that you're highlighting that and making sure that kids know they're available, that the late bus is available, so just anybody can partake, and feel free to, so thank you for that as well. And I'm happy to see the continuance of the advisory program and the Character Strong being done at the Sherwood level and throughout to the high school. I think that's a great continuity for the students, that they'll have that program throughout their time at Shrewsbury. So thank you.
Mr. Winsky.
Yeah, I'd like to thank you all for the presentation. It was great. Thanks to the students for leading us through that exercise. I like it because it just takes the edge off even for a few minutes from the day-to-day grind of, the school schedule, right? And I as I was listening through the presentation, I wish we did more of that within the corporate setting, right? Because we go through 4, 5, 6 virtual meetings in a row, and then your day's over, right? You don't take time for yourself. So I think it's important. I think it also takes time for these programs to ramp, right? I think if you go back to 2019, it was cut short in 2020. We all know, how we got to where we are today. This, to me, feels like kind of the first full unobstructed year that we've had to see these programs evolve further. And it's great to see some of the examples you shared. And I have to say, too, with the after-school activity wall that you mentioned, how you surveyed the students to understand kind of what was missing, and then what came out of that was more awareness around what's available in those programs. And I think anytime we can survey students and staff about the effectiveness of these programs, advisory included, I think it's great to then put that feedback into improving the programs. So thank you all. Appreciate it.
I will echo that. Thank you for this work. This was great, especially I have a student at Sherwood that she will come home and she gives like bits and pieces, because you know how middle schoolers talk and they don't give you everything. So it's nice to see the full circle of what she's actually talking about and how she's connecting with students at school. Something in the report that we had, there was a quote in there that it was applying to work, but could be applicable to students too. If we feel disconnected from others at work, that means that we feel lonely for the majority of our waking hours. And I think it's so important for the staff to have the resources to go to so they don't feel that, and also for the students to feel they're there for most of the day, and making sure that they don't feel lonely, that they are able to connect with somebody at some point is super important. I did have a question for Jordan. So do you feel, because I know that you're pulled in a lot of different directions and you're just one person, is there one school that you feel that you have the most requests from? And is there a grade level that you feel is most responsive to some of your mindfulness techniques?
Most requests,
Yeah.
I think, probably come from the high school at this point. Because I think most students, most teachers, highest number.
Mhm.
And I think it's every grade responds. I think it's a skill set that I've cultivated over 15 years in education of how does this, what's age appropriate, how to frame mindfulness in this way where it lands appropriately for each grade, each age.
Thank you.
And I think this is a journey for us as we're moving through it. It's becoming more and more a part of our culture and the fabric of what we do as a school system. We're getting better at it. When you talked about Zoom meetings, like, now we didn't think we'd do this, and now we do a lot. So part of me is like, I know they're not as effective sometimes, but thank goodness we have that technology, so you can spread yourself around and get this out to more classrooms through that mechanism. So I'm glad at least we have it there, because there is only one of you to do all of this work. I also, every time we have this report, I learn something, and talking about how it helps students with creative writing. Last year, we talked about how it helps students with public speaking. Things like that come out of these that maybe we don't know, and it just adds to that value in the fabric of everything that we do and helping students. I love the check-in, because we don't know what someone had at home, or even for staff at home the night before, and it kind of gives you that pause before everything gets crazy. And I love all the student surveys. As adults, I think sometimes we, think we know what's right and we're going to implement, but getting it right from the students, because for you're the ones who have to work with this and learn from it. And I think it's so important to have student surveys and their voice, because we talk about implementing it with fidelity, but so we need to know that our intent is working in the way that we want everything. So I love to see the student surveys, and I think at the high school level around advisory, I'd love to hear more from students how that is all working for them and what they would like to continue or see tweaked or whatever that is. But it's just a great, great thing that we're doing, and I think it's just becoming more of what we do, which is wonderful. Dr. Sawyer, any comments or questions?
I want to thank all of our presenters, particularly Valentina and Vivian, for sharing with us your perspective and what you've learned. All of these educators have dedicated a lot of time and energy and provided leadership. Leadership, as we know, is not your position. It's what you do to influence others in a positive way and to help things get better. And I think that we'll be certainly talking more in the coming years about social emotional learning, the well-being of all. That commitment is something as part of our updated strategic plan that's carried over from our previous strategic plan, is critically important. But in terms of the one thing we've been talking about a bit recently is that the commitment to educational excellence and to well-being, those are not mutually exclusive concepts. I think sometimes there's a false dichotomy between the two, that if you really have high standards academically, it's going to create a lot of stress, and then kids won't be feeling as strong socially and emotionally. Or if we focus too much on social and emotional well-being, somehow that's going to lower the bar for what we do academically. I think that's really, again, they're mutually reinforcing concepts, and we can do both well. We know that there's evidence that can happen, and they actually can support each other. When kids feel a sense of belonging and they are able to manage their emotions and feel a sense of calm at school, they're going to be more available to do well with their learning. When they're finding success with their academics, they're going to feel better about themselves. And so again, we're looking for that positive snowball effect with both of those things being important. So you heard lots and lots of examples of great work that's happening across the district. I think that the leadership that a variety of folks are bringing to how we can be really systemic about this and really make sure that the programming is implemented with fidelity and all of our kids are getting these opportunities is going to be really important going forward. But thank you for everything you presented. Thanks for all the work you're doing, and we're really pleased that we're really trying to educate the whole child in that sense. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, we are going to talk about our Policy 523 homework policy and the no homework calendar for 2023-2024 school year. Each year, the superintendent will present a recommended calendar of no homework dates for the following school year for the approval of the school committee. And once approved, the dates and expectations for no homework periods will be communicated to students, families, and educators in advance of the school year, as well as periodically throughout the year. So I'll turn it over to Dr. Sawyer.
Thank you, Ms. Fritz. Just want to present and start by reminding folks that we just updated the school committee's policy on homework this past April. One of the key guiding principles for that policy is quoted there from the policy on the slide, that it is a shared responsibility to enable students to have balance while also pursuing educational excellence, which underscores the comments I just made about social emotional learning and academic excellence. A requirement of the new policy is that the district will implement a no homework calendar that specifies times when homework will not be assigned. The district has worked through with that this past year in advance of the policy to try that out. We've overall been successful with that, and we're essentially, as you'll see in a moment, looking to take a very similar approach in the coming school year as well. But now that it's formalized, and the school committee recommended that the dates each year should be just decided each year. We'll likely going forward do this when the school calendar is determined, but since the policy wasn't set until the spring, we're doing that this evening. One sort of key element that people will notice, and we did follow this year to a degree, I think successfully, is that some, not all, but some of the proposed no homework dates do correspond with major religious holidays, where there are going to be a number of students across the district who have religious obligations. But I think it's really important to note that on these no homework dates, regardless of when they are, all students in the district do not have homework assignments that night, or any kind of assessment that next day that requires studying, like a test, for example. These kinds of dates that are corresponding with major religious holidays have dual benefits. It certainly provides the opportunity that the policy overall wants to do to allow time for family time or other responsibilities, catching up. But at the same time, it's also specifically accommodating the students who are observing that particular religious observation or holiday, who otherwise would not be available for homework and would need to make it up. And so, with that, I just want to emphasize again that in addition to any no homework dates in the calendar that you're being asked to approve this evening, anytime a student is not available to complete homework because they're participating in a religious obligation, whether that's an evening obligation or whether that's they're taking a day away from school to participate in that religious holiday. And of course, there are many, many different religious holidays that our families celebrate because we have such a diverse community. So any date that they're required to do that, the student's provided with the opportunity to make up any missed homework or classwork without any penalty for doing so, and that's per the school committee's own policy as well as the law within our state. So with that, I will shift to talking about the actual recommended calendar. There are 15 recommended dates when no homework would be due and where assessments requiring study will not be given. Those are 15 days out of a 180-day school year, which represents 8%, which I think is a very reasonable number when you think about the number of days when assignments can be due, and we do expect at different levels a certain amount of homework because that promotes academic success. This year, or this coming year, with these days, and because of where a variety of those religious holidays fall, it would be 15 weekends where there's no homework required, or no homework weekends. There's 45 total weekends across the school year, so that's about a third, or exactly a third, of the weekends that would not have homework obligations, which helps us achieve that balance that is called for in the policy. So with that, these are the dates that are recommended. Some of them, again, are connected to religious holidays. Some are for state holidays, and others for traditional school vacations. In the fall, the first would be the two different Jewish high holy days of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, followed by the weekend, the state holiday of Columbus Day, which also is recognized as Indigenous Peoples Day by our calendar. so that, again, there'll be no homework due on the day following, and, the Mondays on the days where there's weekend dates, and then the long weekend with the Monday holiday. Tuesday, there would be nothing due or no tests requiring studying. Moving forward, there's actually sort of a doubling up in November because Veterans Day this year is being observed on Friday, November 10th. And over that weekend on Sunday is the holiday of Diwali. And so there'll be no homework or assessments due on Monday, November 13th. Traditionally, the Thanksgiving break has been a no homework time, so nothing will be due the day after that break happens, traditionally in the end of November, followed by the school vacation in December. And when we have the week-long school vacations, that'll be the first time there's actually 2 consecutive no homework weekends, the first weekend of the break and the last weekend of the break, and then nothing until the day following when they get back from the vacation. The Martin Luther King Day holiday in January weekend would be no homework. Lunar New Year this year falls on Saturday, so that would also qualify as a no homework weekend. The February vacation traditionally corresponding with President's Day, and then the Muslim holiday or observance of Ramadan at the beginning when that is celebrated in March, that there would be a no homework day. That date may shift by a day because we have to know when the official declaration of the start of Ramadan is, which varies depending on lunar sighting according to Muslim tradition. The Christian holidays of Good Friday and Easter would be a no homework weekend as well. Eid al-Fitr, which is the observance and celebration of the end of Ramadan, would be in early April. The April vacation, which is always the week of Patriots' Day. The Jewish observance of Passover, which is in late April this year. And then finally, Memorial Day weekend, closer to the end of the school year. So those are the recommended no homework dates for the 2023-2024 school year. And to conclude, this is not able to read, I'd actually look at the colors. This is in the school committee's materials. But the red boxes are the no homework dates. The blue boxes on the calendar are days where there's no school in session during a weekday. And so you can see how they're spread across the academic year and often corresponding to some of those times off that families and students can take advantage of for a variety of things in addition to or instead of their typical homework that they're having most days of the school year. And I will conclude by just again referencing the guiding principle that it is a shared responsibility between the school district and families to really help our students achieve balance that's appropriate. And balance doesn't mean exactly equal. Obviously, we're saying 92% of the days of school, something could be due, but 8% of those days that would not be something required, and so that the time preceding that, a vacation or a weekend or a religious holiday of some type, could be some time where that homework's not a concern. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions and would ask that you vote to approve this evening so we can communicate that out to families now and also at the start of the school year and throughout the year.
Good. Thank you, Dr. Sawyer.
Yes, I'd like to thank the superintendent for his work on this. I think these dates have been very thoughtfully selected. I'm very happy that we decided as a committee to make the policy so that these dates could be selected on an annual basis, not agreed to kind of that there would be the same dates every year, because I think they're going to shift depending on how things fall on the calendar on an annual basis. So this gives us flexibility to kind of look at this every year and kind of come up with what's best. And I'm also pleased that we're going to be able to communicate this out to the community now in June so that people can have this information for planning purposes along with the regular school calendar. So that way for families to making travel arrangements or plans, they'll have these dates and kind of know what the homework, no homework time frame is for the coming school year.
Mr. Witzke.
Yeah, I fully support the recommendation. I appreciate all the work that that was done on revising the homework policy, and I think this is one of the really good things that came out of it. I think an awareness of what this policy is and what the calendar is each year, just to communicate to the school community. So yeah, I definitely support this.
I also support it. I think for me, the biggest thing is making sure the communication, like we've talked about all along, and providing maybe the policies, 523 and 291. So families have that, they can read it, they understand why these are in place. And as Ms. Boucher said, it's going to be looked at annually to make sure that the days line up with district needs, families' needs, and so forth. So I'm fully in support of it. So if nothing further, we need to take a vote. I have a motion to approve the no homework calendar for 2023-2024 school year as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda, we are going to have an update from Mr. Collins on the fiscal year 2023 budget status, and we will need to take a vote on any fund transfers. So turn over to Mr. Collins.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Fritz. And I guess using the metaphor that was talked about earlier about landing the plane, that's kind of what we're doing now. So tray tables are up, seats in the upright position, wheels are down. And we're making the final approach here. We're about 95% of the way through the fiscal year, 95% of the way through the school year. I want to touch upon a couple of topics. And first would be just COVID funding. There's a table in your report there that shows, again, the three remaining major federal sources of COVID-related funding: ESSER 1, ESSER 2, and ESSER 3. And similar to when I reported back in March on this topic, there really hasn't been a lot of movement, but the ESSER 1 grant was just over $162,000. That is completely closed out, and all the final reports are done. The ESSER 2 grant, just over $557,000, is fully expended or encumbered. That grant officially closes as of September 30th of this year, and we will fully expend all the funds by that date. And then finally, the ESSER 3 funding, just over $1.2 million, and we've spent over $600,000, 50% of that. And earlier in the school year, you voted to approve an amended plan for the remaining investment, which would include funding this upcoming summer academic academy for students, just as an example, along with the late bus for next year as well. So that grant does not close out until September of 2024, so we've got a longer runway on that. With respect to the general fund, which is the annual appropriation by town meeting, you've got a table of information that shows the $79.3 million appropriation. This is the so-called use it or lose it fund. So all funds have to be utilized by September 30th, about 2 weeks from today. And as of this writing, which was on June 7th, we had expended just over $66.57 million, or 84% of the budget. We had $12.1 million, or 15% still encumbered. That's primarily in payroll. And then we had a remaining balance of $576,000 that was also to be spent by June 30th. So there's some year-end projections there. The bottom line is the bottom line, which is that I fully expect that we're going to drive this budget down to zero by June 30th. You might remember that also when I made the update in middle to late March, March 24th, that there was a projected year-end surplus of $265,000, and we've been executing on that investment plan. We had brought to the school committee at your workshop on April 5th an investment plan for those dollars, and we've been working through that. And as part of that plan, that included a variety of things, to include English language learner textbooks and materials, media center investments, athletic equipment, stage equipment for Shrewsbury High School, and things like that. So we're tying up those loose ends as well. There wasn't really a lot of difference between the March projection and the June projection, other than really the change to the positive with respect to the cost rate, cost trend for substitutes for both daily and long-term substitutes. So that trend really started to, I mentioned that in March that it was starting to bend, that was kind of an early alarm, if you will, back in the fall when I made the budget update, that we had a very high financial burn rate with respect to day-to-day substitutes and long-term substitutes. And we're watching that closely. That curve really started to bend in March, and actually on a year-to-year comparison from this year to last year, it really bent downward since the March timeframe. So at this point, while I'm still expecting that we're going to be about $350,000 over budget, that is far less than what I had been projecting last fall. So that curve bent in the right direction. And you might remember that your final fiscal / budget that you approved increased that budget significantly, upwards of about $1.3, $1.4 million. So I think it's in a safe place for fiscal '24. I do expect that cost trend will, current year cost trend will continue into next year, but I think that we're in a safe place for next year. A lot of different overages and underages. Again, the things that we know about that we've talked about before, like, the tuitions coming in under budget for both special education and vocational, that created a lot of room, if you will, to cover the deficits that we experienced in other categories like substitutes or the teacher salary accounts. So that helped us cover those, but it also helped us with that so-called year-end investment plan, and a lot of those, or all of those expenses really occurred in the D categories, and that's why we see a lot of overages there, and some of those are just intentional because we had the so-called surplus funds to put into those categories. So I think the other piece that is really relevant is, so the general fund appropriation gets driven to zero. We fully expend that. Where does that leave us with circuit breaker? And fully expect that we will end this fiscal year with close to the maximum allowable cap of $3.4 million. So there's been no change in that. There's a big chunk of that money that's committed to fund the fiscal '24 budget, but we're in a good position there. So no changes with respect to year-end circuit breaker funding. That's really kind of it in a nutshell. I know that there is a recommended motion to make transfers between surplus accounts and deficit accounts to bring this thing to a close. But with that, I'm happy to answer any specific questions that the committee members might have.
Any questions or comments on this? No? No one has a question.
Okay.
We trust everything you
Fair
do.
for landing.
Yeah. Any comments, Dr. Sawyer?
I just want to thank Mr. Collins for the work to orchestrate this all as he does each year, and his team, and we thanked earlier, to help make sure that we have all the data we need to make these determinations. But it's a little more of a up and down in different places kind of year, but again, we're still experiencing some unusual situations as we continue to emerge from the pandemic, and we will the continuous monitoring is something that is ingrained in the way we do business, and that will continue even when Mr. Collins is home watching TV on Wednesday nights. Mr. Girardi takes over. So.
Thank you again. Okay, we do need to vote on this as well. May I have a motion to authorize the administration to make budget transfers from the original budget plan as necessary to eliminate deficits and surpluses with the intent of fully expending the total FY23 appropriation by June 30th, 2023, and balancing all accounts?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you again, Mr. Collins.
Thank you.
Okay, next we are going to move on under Finance and Operations, fiscal year '24 non-represented staff compensation adjustments. Each year, the superintendent recommends changes in compensation rates for the coming fiscal year for non-represented staff. We have a table in our packet, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Sawyer.
Thank you. I'll be as brief as I can. The non-represented staff, which essentially staff members in positions that are hourly positions mostly and are not represented by a collective bargaining unit, are set by the school committee each year. These include secretaries, clerical staff, IT support staff, the extended school care program staff, anyone who's another hourly employee as well. And I think that, just to give a brief history, when we had our fiscal crisis in 2021, there was a total compensation freeze for this group. No steps, no COLA, nothing at all, which we appreciate that sacrifice they made, which helped us, avert even more reductions than we made at the time, which were 30 positions, which was a really very difficult time for us financially and programmatically. Since that time, the school committee authorized the following year, after the freeze, a 4% cost of living increase, which tried to get them back to where they would have more likely been if they, as far as the rate, they would never recover some of the money out of pocket that they didn't receive, but at least the rate went up as if they'd had a 2% raise consecutive years. For this current year, there was a 2.25% COLA, and also a new top step that was added. This was mimicking some of what we did for paraprofessionals this current year. That top step was 2% higher, so someone who was at top step already for experience received a 4.25% total increase. For the coming year, beginning July 1st, I'm recommending that this employee group be granted a 3% cost of living adjustment. That's within the context of what we can provide with the budget. I think we obviously continue to be within a high inflation environment, and this will help us remain competitive and attract and retain qualified and talented staff members in these roles, which are critically important for the school district's operation. And again, it's within the FY24 budget plan. Separately, the extended school care program, which we usually handle differently based on the separate budget that runs, on parent tuitions. I'm recommending a 2.75% increase for both child care providers and lead child care providers based on our estimates of what that budget will bear. And then finally, a very small employee group, but very important one, which are our crossing guards, 7 individuals. It's been very difficult to retain people in that role this year. We did look at the market. Ms. Malone helped us look at that, and we are recommending that change from a daily, those are paid a daily stipend of currently just over $29 a day, and we're recommending that be adjusted to $40 per day, and we hope that's going to help us with attracting and retaining folks to do those roles. And again, there is room within the budget plan to achieve that. So those are my recommendations. And these are very valuable and important employees, and compared to prior to the operational override, we're in difficult times. Not only that freeze, but there have been a number of years where there are very modest increases. We think this one is, given the context of what we have for resources, is an appropriately targeted increase of 3% for most, and then with the exceptions I just mentioned. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, and would ask that you vote to put this into motion so we can make sure those are in place for the first payroll after July 1st.
Any questions or comments on this? No? I agree. It's we want to make sure everybody's in the market and that we don't get too far behind, because when we do, that's even harder to catch up depending what the budget situation is. So I fully support all of these. So no further questions or comments. We do need to vote. I need a motion to approve compensation adjustments to non-represented staff for fiscal year 2024 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda, we do need to discuss and vote the superintendent's contract. A vote of the school committee is required to authorize the chair to approve an updated employment agreement with the superintendent of schools. And last year, we did do a market adjustment for Dr. Sawyer. And this year, we have a recommendation of a 2.5% salary increase for a total salary of $244,065 for fiscal year 2024. And we would be also extending his contract. It's a 5-year contract. We'd be extending it 1 year, so it would cover the period of 2023 through July 1st of 2023 through June 30th of 2028. And the other piece is just adding some language to match what other members and the leadership team are getting around family sick, as well as combining earned and unused personal and sick time in the event of an emergency. So we've had a chance to look at that. Any questions or comments? None? Anything, Dr. Sawyer?
And I appreciate the school committee's generosity, particularly with the market adjustment that was made for the current year, and feel this is a very fair opportunity, and appreciate it.
Well, thank you, but you earn it. It's not an easy job, and I think that it's reflected. Last year we wanted to make sure that you were in the market, and making sure that you and your benefits match what the rest of the staff is getting. So we're happy to do it anyway. All right, we do need a vote on this as well. So I need a motion to authorize the chair to execute an updated employment agreement between the school committee and Dr. Joseph M. Sawyer as superintendent of schools for the dates July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2028, which will provide a salary increase of 2.5% for a salary of $244,065 for the fiscal year 2024, in which will update personal leave benefits to align with those of other district administrators, with all other contract terms remaining unchanged.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next, we have our minutes from our meeting held on June 7th, 2023. Have everybody had a chance to take a look? Any changes or corrections? Okay. They can be marked as approved as distributed, and we do not need to go into executive session this evening. So if there's no further business, I'll entertain a motion that we adjourn for the evening.
So moved. Second.
A roll call vote is required. Ms. Shreveport?
Aye.
Mr. Wensky?
Aye.
Ms. Boucher?
Aye.
Myself, aye. Thank you and good night.